Hello everyone, good morning. This is Kiran, the trainer joining.
Good morning, Kiran.
Morning. Let's wait for 2 minutes to let others also join and then we'll get started. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. I hope it's visible for you guys. Yeah, so welcome to our day one training program. So today we are starting off with the chapter 1 as we have seen already in the course curriculum. So we'll start off with certain basics for today. So the agenda for today's discussion is we are going to talk about and brainstorm our understanding on the software testing. So we're going to talk about these bullet points, and I would request you guys to participate in this discussion so that I understand how much you are good at and the areas where I need to stress more in sharing my knowledge. So we're going to talk about software testing, primary objective, secondary objective. Then we have different types of testings, right? Then we talk about black box testing, white box testing, gray box testing. Then we have different testing modes. There we have functional testing, non-functional testing. Then we have testing execution strategies. We have manual testing. We have automation testing. Then we have testing methodologies. Positive testing, negative testing. Then we have destructive testing. So these are the things we are going to quickly brainstorm in today's class. And finally, we'll talk about accessibility testing so that we conclude where accessibility testing typically comes under. Is the agenda clear for all of you? Can I have a quick confirmation?
Yes.
Okay. So we all come from software testing background, and mostly we understand the definition of software testing. So it is an activity of verifying and validating the application given by the development team to the testing team with the intention of finding bugs, right? That is something software testing all about. But software testing also essentially talks about primary objective, secondary objective, more from an ISTQB standards perspective. So what is this primary objective and what is the secondary objective of software testing? Let's try to recap it. So the primary objective of software testing is to ensure whatever requirements your developer has built in the form of a software are all the requirements developed or not. That is the primary objective. Meaning, if the client has given you 10 requirements, requirement 1 is login, requirement 2 is add items to shopping cart, requirement 3 is make a payment, like that requirement 10 is log out. So when the developer prepares a build, executable build, and hands over to the testing team, the primary objective of test engineer is to check, to verify if all those 10 requirements are converted into application code or not. Meaning, earlier in the document, you read the requirements like login, log out, make a payment, add items to shopping cart, view your order, cancel your order, update the order, delete the order. So you read that in a document. The document is not what customer needs. He needs a software which has these documents written in the form of a code and usable by a user. So you as a test engineer has to verify if these requirements are converted into code and used by a real user on the application. That is the primary objective of software testing. So if I have to write the primary objective, the definition goes like this. Verify if the client given requirements are converted into application code so that real users can use the application. Okay, or I can say so that it becomes usable for the real users. So again, you underline the word usable, usability. Okay, so that is the primary objective of software testing. Then what is the secondary objective? The secondary objective is, after the primary objective is met, the secondary objective of a test engineer should be to test the application in such a way that he or she can find as many bugs as possible or as many defects as possible, right? So you test the application with lot of test cases, with lot of test data, valid data, invalid data, with an intention to find a bug or a defect. So secondary objective is find as many defects as possible, find as many bugs as possible in your application so that your developer can verify them, fix them, and you can track them to closure. That is the secondary objective. Okay. So the secondary objective is find as many bugs or defects, whichever word you use, find as many bugs as possible in the application, in the developed application, and track them towards closure activities so that the application becomes usable for real users. Again, the word usable is coming here. Okay. So in secondary objective, most of the times people simply say our objective is to find as many defects as possible. Finding is not the only part of it. Tracking them towards closure activities is also important. Meaning you have to help the developer in reproducing the bug, help them understand why this bug is coming, meaning conduct some root cause analysis to help the developer fix that bug so that you can retest in the next build and close that bug. And finally, when the build is handed over to the production team or the production users, the application should become usable. Again, you see the word usable is coming here, meaning usability. Usability testing is something that everyone focuses on. So this is the primary objective and secondary objective of software testing. Am I clear, guys? Do you have any questions here? Okay, I need some acknowledgements, guys. Like I said, trainings are not one-way programs. It should be two-way programs. Okay, thank you. Then let's deep down. Okay. Then we have testing types. I'm sure you're all aware of it, but still I would like to recap it. Black box testing, white box testing, and gray box testing. So BBT stands for black box testing. It is also called as functional testing, behavior testing, closed box testing. No, but what exactly is black box testing? Most of the test engineers in this planet are black box testers. But again, what is black box testing, right? So when you are testing an application, if you don't have the necessity to know the application coding details, database details, server details, framework details, backend details, but still you are okay to test the application without that knowledge, it becomes black box testing. Example, if I give one simple application, you guys have to tell me, can you test it as it is, or you will ask me 100 questions. So there is this login functionality here. Can you guys test this login functionality without asking me the questions like, Kiran, in which programming language it is used? What is the database you are using? What is the backend you are using? What is the framework developer used? What is the server where the code is deployed? How many tables are there? How many columns are there? What is the database? Where it is hosted? Do you have one database or two databases? Do you have one programming language to develop this, or you used multiple programming languages? Do you ask me all these questions before you test? Or you will say, Kiran, I think login functionality I can test without even asking you any questions. So what is the answer here? You have to just test the login test case, login functionality. Okay, Sanjeev says he will ask. Okay. Rest of the folks, can you also answer? Okay, Abdul says we will ask based on the requirements, or can test based on requirements. Okay. Okay, Dinesh says we can test directly. Okay, so the answer is, see, if you have to test this particular form, all you need is some valid usernames and invalid usernames, right? If I give invalid username, example Dinesh, password also Dinesh, it is invalid. So when I click login, it should throw an error. And you can see it says login failed. So I tested one combination. Similarly, I will not enter username and password. I'll click on login. This should throw an error. Yes, it is throwing an error because no username and password. Now I'll remove the password and I'll try to log in only with username. It should throw an error, and it is throwing an error. So I'm able to test without asking the developer all the details like what is the programming language you used, what is the database language you used, right? We don't ask all those questions because it is not needed. You can use just common sense, your experience, and you can test that application. That is called as black box testing. Okay, so I will say in black box testing, the test engineer need not know the low level details of the developed application, such as front end programming language used, back end programming language used, database details, table details, column name details, data types details, framework details, server details, etc. You don't need all these information. All you need is just the application and just one or two levels of requirements. Like the requirement is, if you enter a valid username and password, you will be logged in. If you don't enter valid username and password, you will get an error. So that is enough to test this application now, right? And we tested it like that only, and we are getting error messages. When you enter valid username password, click on login, like I have entered valid, now you are logged in successfully. So I'm able to test that application directly with like that. So that process is called as black box testing. Typically, black box testing, if you look at the image of a black box, right? I'll just Google it for images. So if you see this black box, I mean, imagine any black box. You are outside somewhere here. Can you see what is present inside the black box? Mostly no, right? You have a cotton box at home It is completely wrapped in black color. So we cannot see from outside what is there inside, right? Because black box will not allow light to pass through. So your native eyes cannot see what is present inside a black box. Hence, in our black box testing, you don't need to know the low level details or the inner details. So black box testing is also referred to as closed box testing, because the box is closed, hence you don't know the low level details. So it is called closed box testing. And what are we testing? You're testing whether the application is working correctly or not when you provide inputs, valid inputs or invalid inputs. So it is also called as functional testing. Or you're testing the behavior of that application. So it is also called as behavior testing or behavioral testing. Okay. Or opaque testing. These are other names given for black box testing. Okay. So now I hope everyone understands what is black box testing, right? So Vijay has a question. The answer is yes, Vijay. Without requirements, we cannot test it. Requirements should be discussed, but requirements are not part of your low-level details like programming language. Basic requirement understanding we should definitely have. Then we have white box testing. So white box testing is opposite of black box testing. Here you need to know everything. Okay, that testing technique is called as white box testing. Meaning here you need to know what is the front-end programming language used, what is the back-end programming language used, the database details, the server details, framework details. You will be told everything. The reason is you have to test the source code and not the application. Meaning in white box testing, you won't get this kind of application. Rather, you will get source code. The entire source code will be given to you and you have to test the code. So example, if I just go to sample source code GitHub. Yeah. So this is the kind of thing you will be given. Some source code will be given to you and you have to test it. This is very small code, but something like this will be given to you and we have to test that only. Let me see if there is one more I can open. Yeah. So this is also a source code. So if you are told to test this kind of source code, we call it as white box testing. Am I clear, guys? Okay. So in white box testing, this kind of source code will be given to you. Okay. And you have to test it. So to test it, definitely you need programming language understanding, meaning you should come from programming background. You should know front end, you should know back end, you should understand databases, should understand servers, etc. So the definition is in white box testing, the test engineer has to know the low level details of the developed application, such as all these details. Because you test the code. So I will say here, we test the application. Whereas in white box testing, I will say here, we test the application code. Underline these words. You test application code in white box and here you test application only. Okay. And white box testing is also referred to as, if black box is called as closed box, so this will be called as open box testing. And it is called as transparent testing because the box is open for you. In black box, the box is closed, black color. In white box, the box is not in black color, it is white color. So you can see everything what is there inside a white box. So it is called as transparent testing, because you should know every detail. So 90% of the test engineers, right, they're all black box testers, not white box testers. Mostly developers only will become white box testers. And finally, we have gray box testing. Simple. It is a combination of black box testing plus white box testing. So someone who says I can do both, we call them as gray box testers. Okay. Then we have testing modes. So we have functional testing and we have non-functional testing. Functional testing is also called as black box testing. Like you already saw here, I wrote functional testing is called as black box testing. So in functional testing, what we do is we validate the functional behavior of the application. So you test the functionality of the application by passing valid inputs, by passing invalid inputs, and verify the output received from the server or from the database. Example, here you see in this diagram, you are supplying an input and you are validating the output. Example, if this is a calculator, so I'm opening calculator on my computer. So this is the application. Now I am not looking at the source code of this calculator application, right? Just the application I'm seeing. I wanted to test this plus functionality. So I'll say 6 plus 9. And I know what is the answer, expected answer 15. So this is my input. So that is this input. And if I click equals, 15 is my expectation and I'm getting 15. And that is the output that is talking about. So the software application, the black box application you're using is calculator, because you don't even know which programming language they use to develop it. So in functional testing, we provide inputs and we validate outputs. Okay. So functional testing is, it is validating the application behavior or application functionality by passing valid inputs. Inputs is also called as test data. By passing it need not be valid, by passing inputs to the application and validating the output. Output is also called as response, by validating the output received from the server. So in functional testing, you provide input and you validate the output. Again, functional testing is black box testing only. You don't have to know all those inside details. Okay, that is functional testing. Am I clear, guys, on what is functional testing, or you have any questions? In case if you are very new to in software testing also, please ask questions. These are some essentials you already learned in your career or in your college days. So I'm not spending too much time there. But if you have questions, do ask me by unmuting or by putting it on the chat. Okay, so Abdul has a question. Does testing is quality assurance or quality control, since it's been interchangeably and creating confusion? Okay, so quality assurance is different, quality control is different, verification is different, validation is different. Let me give explanations. Verification is done by the person who developed it. Okay? So if Abdul is the developer, Kiran is the test engineer, Abdul knows that Kiran will test it and will give a lot of defects or bugs. So what will Abdul do when he develops a software? First, he will only test it to know if he can find any defects before Kiran can find it. So the application is developed by Abdul and he is only checking for bugs. That process is called as verification. After Abdul confirms that I am not able to find any bugs, my application developed is very good. Now he gives it to Kiran. Kiran is a test engineer. So when Kiran conducts testing activities and he finds bugs, that process what Kiran is doing is called as validation. Okay. When you verify your own work, use the word verification. When you use someone else to test your work, use the word validation. So verification is done by developers, validation is done by test engineers. Then quality assurance versus quality control. Testing team does quality control, not quality assurance. Though we call testing team as QA team, it is not QA team, it is QC team, quality control team. We control the quality, we don't assure quality. Quality assurance is done by some other people called as SQA team, software quality assurance team. Their job is to ensure that the process is followed across the organization. Standard templates is followed across the organization by every person in the project, including the designers, developers, project managers, test engineers, test managers, DevOps team, operations team, production team. So that team takes care of process. They want to test like what we are discussing in this course. So that team does quality assurance. Okay. Testing team conducts validations. Testing team is called as quality control team. Quality assurance team is different. They want to test anything. Their job is to ensure process is followed, standard templates are followed. That is what their job is. Is your question answered, Abdul?
Yeah, Kiran, very clear.
Okay, Sonia says, can we use automation tools for functional testing? Yes, Sonia, definitely we can use. Lot of tools are there for functional testing automation like Selenium, Cypress, Playwright, Catalan Studio, QTP or UFT. Like so many tools are there. But the answer is yes.
Okay. Thank you, Kiran.
Yeah. So functional testing is clear, right? We are supplying the inputs and validating the outputs, like giving a valid username and password and validating if I'm logged in or not when I click on login button. Then we have non-functional testing. This is opposite of functional testing. So in non-functional testing, we don't focus on supplying inputs and validating the outputs, but we concentrate on some non-functional characteristics of your developed application, like how is the performance of the application, what is the load your server can handle, what is the peak load you can provide it, is the application secured enough, is the application compatible with other browsers and other operating systems, then is the application usable by every person, is application accessible by people who are deaf or dumb. They all come under non-functional testing. So I will say in non-functional testing, it is validating the application non-functional characteristics, such as application performance. Meaning when you do performance testing, you validate application performance. Then you talk about application security. When you do conduct security testing, you will find out whether the application is secured or not. Meaning when I'm making an online payment, is my money actually going to the merchant or is it going to some hacker in between? So that is application security. And when I'm logging in, is someone seeing my credentials? That is also security. Then we have application compatibility across various browsers and operating systems. So is your application going to work on Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Chrome, Safari, Windows, Linux, Mac? So you have to test whether your application is compatible on various operating systems and browsers. Okay, not only browsers, different screen sizes also, like different devices, right? In mobile, you have so many devices, right? So that also you have to check if it's a mobile application. Then we check for whether the application is usable by different users. I can say application usability. Then the application accessibility, etc. So when you test for these characteristics, we say we are conducting non-functional testing. Okay. Accessibility, you know already, I told it yesterday, and I will say again and again in the upcoming classes. So like this, testing can be divided as functional testing and non-functional testing. To give an example for functional testing, if someone asks you, hey, how is Kiran, explaining the course on day 0, day 1? And if your feedback is okay, forget about the feedback of good or bad, but you are going to comment like, yeah, he's giving examples, he's explaining nicely, right? No, he's writing it, he's not showing any PowerPoint presentations, he's writing a detailed notes. So if this is the feedback you are giving, I would call it as functional testing. From a functional perspective, you are giving the feedback. If your feedback is, I think Kiran voice is very good, his English is very good, and if I'm coming on camera, you would come and say, hey, he looks good, he has a tall height. And if you're giving feedback based on my appearance, that is called non-functional testing. Okay, whether the feedback is positive or negative, I'm not worried about that. But if your feedback is based on a person's appearance, it is non-functional. The feedback is based on what that person is capable of doing, that is like functional testing. So your application also will have functional characteristics, which is the behavior, like how is it working when you provide an input, you validate the output. That is functional testing. In non-functional testing, you focus on non-functional characteristics like performance, security, usability, compatibility, accessibility. Those things comes under non-functional. Then we have test execution strategies. So here we have manual testing and automation testing. So manual testing is a process where you test the application manually by executing the test cases that you have written. And typically it is a time consuming activity. You have to do it manually every day. And you get little bored doing it every day again and again. It is a time consuming activity. So I will say executing the test cases by the test engineer on a daily basis, and I will write the word here manually, executing the test cases, executing the developed test cases manually by the test engineer on a daily basis is called as manual testing. And this is a time consuming activity because you have to execute it every day. And I'm sure you know what is a test case, right? If you do not know, you should ask me. It's a procedure which has multiple steps written that helps you understand how to test it. Example of a test case is, I will say, open browser, navigate to google.com/gmail. Third steps, enter username, enter password, click on login. So I will say enter valid username, enter valid password. So these are the steps written. So this is my test case. To test the login functionality, I will write these individual steps like this, called as test steps. So that process of writing multiple steps together, we call it as one single test case to test the application functionality. And you have to execute these test cases whenever the developer gives you a new build and requesting the testing team to verify the bugs or to validate the requirements. Again, primary objective, secondary objective. So you execute it manually every day. So there is no shortcut. You have to execute it manually. That process is called as manual testing. Like whatever teaching I'm doing you right now, or whatever I have done yesterday, today, whatever I'm doing tomorrow, day after also, should come under manual testing because I'm speaking, right? And it's a manual effort I'm taking for 1 hour every day. And it's a manual effort you are taking also to listen to every day for 1 hour. So it's manual testing, whatever I'm speaking, because manually I'm doing it. To fix this manual testing process, which is a time consuming activity, the industry came with automation testing. Automation testing is you will not execute it manually, rather you will write some programming language, which we call it as automation code, and that code will take care of execution. Meaning you are outsourcing your manual work to an automation testing tool, and the tool will execute it, and you can relax while the tool is doing it. So you are giving it to someone else. That's called as automation testing. So I will say executing the developed test cases through an automation testing tool such as QTP, UFT, Selenium, Appium, Cypress, Postman, Rest Assured. Like this, there are thousands of tools in the market. So when you execute your developed test cases through an automation tool is called as automation testing. And this is a quick process, meaning it's not time consuming activity like manual testing. Okay, it's not time consuming activity. It is a quick process. It takes less time to execute it. Okay? So what is automation testing in my training program? When I'm teaching you manually, it is manual testing. But what if I say I have a recorded video of accessibility testing every day? So I'll play the video and you listen to it. That is automation testing because I'm not speaking. I have already recorded my words. My classes are already getting recorded. And someone who says, I cannot join the training today in the morning at 7 o'clock, Kiran, because I'm attending some other trainings. So they go and prefer to listen to the recorded video. So when I give them recorded video, I am not speaking again, right? I'm using the automation strategy. I'm recording my class and I'm handing over to people who needs the recorded videos. That's automation testing. Okay. So wherever there is a shortcut, we use automation testing. One more example I'll give you. Let me open Excel sheet. I'll show one simple automation example here. Okay. I wanted to write something called student ID. Then student name and student marks. Okay, these are the three columns we have. Now, if I write, let's say the student ID, first I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm writing the student IDs manually. And I'm little bored also to write all these things. So I will say the first student I have is Kiran. Then let me write your names. Anish, Vijay Kumar, Abdul, Dinesh, Surya, Sonia. Right? Let's say Kumar, John, Mark. Like this I'm writing. Again, I'm writing manually. And let's say the student marks. Like this I'm writing. Okay, so I'm writing the student marks. Whatever data I have filled now, it's manual because I'm doing it manually. And it's a time consuming activity, right? Right now I wrote only 10. What if I have 1,000 students? It's time consuming activity. So how can I automate it? Like, is there a shortcut for me to automate it? Let's see. Okay. Now I will say the first student ID is 1, second student ID is 2. If I can select the first 2 and then do this drag and drop, I'm able to generate the student IDs automatically. That is Excel trick. So this is automation because I'm not doing manually. I'm using automation trick or I'm using the formula to generate the numbers automatically. Like this, I can go and generate any number of student records. See, my job has become easy. So this is called automation. Then student marks. So I will say first student 88, second student 56, third student 85. So something. So I can just select this, drag and drop to get the marks for the remaining students. Some random data is coming, that's okay. But something is getting generated here. Randomly the data is coming. Then I want student name. So student name, you can write something like, let's say, Kiran, Kumar, Anish, and let's say Kumari. And now you can drag and drop to see if the formula is coming or not coming. That's different again. But you see the data is coming like this. You are able to duplicate the data at least. Otherwise, if you want unique names, you have functions in Excel sheet. If you type equal to and type, you see some functions are coming here. You have to find the function that can generate some random thing. So I will say random string. See, random is there. You can use these functions to generate a random date also. Whatever you want, you can generate it. So using the functions, you can write automated data as well. So that process is called as automation. So whenever you do such kind of shortcuts, it is called as automation. So in testing also, we have to use the shortcuts using those automation tools like I mentioned. So you will automate your manual test cases by writing programming language code in Java or JavaScript or Python. Okay, so Abdul has a question. Okay, Abdul, can you explain your question? It's not clear to me.
Sure. Is it audible, Kiran?
Yes.
Yeah, Kiran, see, normally, from my knowledge or the experience, people used to say that when to use automation when your application is stable and it has got many releases or enhancement. So at that time, we don't want to run the regression suit, which is nothing but the initial functionality should be working fine when we do some modification or enhancement. So at that time, we'll go for automation. But how come for the first earlier questions when Sonia asked it, okay, can we use automation tool for functional testing? How can we do it for the first time? Still, it is possible. That was my question.
Yeah. So the question one is, when should we do automation? So 99% of the people in the industry says you have to do automation when all the requirements are developed, or at least the application is stable for the given requirements. Then only we start with automation. Whether you are automating regression test cases or smoke test cases or functional test cases or integration test cases, that doesn't matter. But ideally, if I have to automate it, first I will automate my smoke test cases. That priority one, P1 test cases, I will automate it. After that, I will go and automate my regression test cases slowly once the application is stable. Did I answer your question? Or
Yeah, Kiran. So normally we will not do automation initially, right? That was my my question. See, for example, today they are giving an application, a web-based application for a testing team. Will the testing team can able to use automation tool for the first time? Because you cannot replace manual testing, right? That was my query, Kiran. That's it.
Yeah. So the moment you get the first build, day one automation is not possible. Automation will come at later stages, not immediately. And even if automation is done, it cannot replace manual testing. Manual testing has to go as it is, but to expedite your testing process and to make some faster decisions, some part of your test cases can be automated. That's why I said initially we automate smoke test cases and we see if it is working correctly or not, like a manual tester. If it is replacing manual testers, then you go and automate few more test cases from the regression. And if it is replacing, then you will continue to automate more and more regression test cases. But to automate it also, you need the same guy. Manual tester will learn the tool, he will write the code. So that is again manual process. Writing the code is manual process. Only the execution part is automated. So manual testers will continue to stay. Manual testers will continue to do manual testing, and they only upgrade themselves to automation testing, and they will write the code. They will execute the automation scripts and see if the application is getting executed properly or they're finding bugs or not. But I would like to say that the moment you get a build from developers, immediately you should not think of automation. At a later stage, maybe after 1 month or maybe after a few weeks, you have to think, how is the application stability? Is the application going through a lot of changes from a requirement perspective, from a coding perspective? If the answer is yes, don't do automation now. Only when everything is stabilized, when the functionality is developed properly, when the requirements are freezed, the developer says, I'm not changing the code for login button. It is over. My work is over for login functionality. Then you automate login. Okay, like that you have to get sign off for each feature. Only then you will automate the modules.
Yes. Clear, Kiran. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, then we have finally testing methodologies. Here we have something called positive testing, negative testing, and destructive testing. So positive testing means your mindset is very optimistic and positive, which means the intention of your testing activity is to prove that the application developed by the development team is working. Because you're optimistic, you don't want to find bugs. You want to prove to the opposite person that, hey, you know what? Our application is working. You see, I'm able to book, I'm able to log in, I'm able to book an appointment, I'm able to view my history of doctor appointments, and I'm able to log out. So you are showcasing the confidence levels that the application is working. That is called as positive testing. And you always work with valid data in positive testing. And we do positive testing only during critical releases to the customer team, or you have a demonstration meetings with management or with developments or with the client team. Okay. So the definition of positive testing is here. The intention of the testing activity is to prove that the developed application works across all the developed functionalities. And this is conducted during smoke test, confidence test, or during demos to the management team or to the client team. Also during UAT test, we do this. I'll give an example. So if this is the application I have got, okay, so this is the application I have got, and let's say I'm giving a demo to you guys, and my intention is to tell you that client, we have developed it and it is working. So here I will say, if you enter the valid credentials, like you see I'm copying and pasting, and if I click on login, the user will be successfully logged in. So I'm showing you confidence that login is working. And I'll say, you see, the login functionality has worked. Now the user comes here and he can book an appointment in one of these countries. If he wants hospital bed, he will select it. If he has insurance or no insurance, he will select it. The user can choose a future date like April 30 for his doctor appointment. He can also give a reason why he needs to visit a doctor. So he says body checkup as the reason. And as soon as the person has filled all the data, if he clicks on book appointment, his doctor appointment should be booked successfully. And there you go, our appointment has been successfully confirmed. And here we also provide a quick review of his appointment details, in which country or which city, whether he needs hospital bed, which insurance he has opted for, etc. And in the future, if he wants to view the history of his appointments, he can click on history. And here we are displaying the historical information. And if the user wanted to log out, he clicks on log out, and there you go, the user is logged out successfully. So this is positive testing. My intention here is to give you confidence that login is working, book an appointment is working, history is working, logout is working, right? So that is positive testing mindset. I hope I am clear on that. Now let's talk about negative testing. Here intention is not to prove it will work. Your intention is to prove it will fail, because you will find some bugs. And this is not conducted with your management team. Negative testing is conducted in the initial stages of testing process, where your job is to find as many bugs as possible. So the definition here is, here the intention of the testing activity is to prove that the developed application does not work across all the developed functionalities. So you should underline this word, does not work. You want to prove that it is not working, because your intention is negative here. And when do you do this? And this is conducted during regression testing, functional testing, system testing, etc. All those activities. Okay. During the initial sprints of your project. Initial sprints means initial stages. If you're following agile methodology, you'll understand sprint. If you understand waterfall V model, we use the word phases. So our intention in negative testing is to find a bug. In positive testing, intention is not to find a bug. So example, if I have to be negative testing now, then I will say once I log in with valid username, now I wanted to be doing negative testing here. So I will say I have to choose a visit date. Today is 16th April and I'm choosing 1st April as the date. And I will say fever checkup. Click on book appointment and you see 1st April is a previous date. Book appointment and I have the appointment confirmation. Your appointment is booked for 1st April 2025, which is a previous date. How can you book an appointment for a previous date? So that is a bug, right? Your application is not developed correctly. There is no logic on this particular appointment booking. So I'm using negative mindset to prove that there is a bug. In positive testing, I want to try this before customer, because that is a demo to customer. You have to be positive in your approach, but don't hide the bugs. Okay, you have to report the bugs to developer before you do positive testing before the client, meaning you are not fooling the client. You're telling the client that all those negative testing is already completed and we found as many bugs as possible. Developers fixed them, we retested, we closed them also. Similarly, one more, if I want to show you, let's say we are choosing future date only, but comment is not entered by the user why he needs a doctor appointment. And if he clicks on book appointment, his appointment is getting booked without any comment. Usually the doctor needs to know, or at least the attender needs to know why someone is coming for an appointment, so that the respective doctor can be made available, right? Because there is no single doctor who does everything, right? Based on your comment and visit reason, a proper appointment with a proper doctor can be arranged. So this is not there. And in the history, if you go now, I'm able to see current appointment where I entered the comment as fever, and one more appointment I did just now without comment, right? So the problem here is, where is that appointment which I did during positive testing? I wrote body checkup, but that body checkup is missing here. It is not there. Right now I booked 2 appointments, I'm seeing 2, but there is one I have booked during positive testing demonstration, that is missing. And if I log out now, and if I log in again, and if I go to history, all my appointments are gone. With the same username password I'm logging in, all my appointments are gone. So this is negative testing, where your job is to find the bugs in the developed application. Okay, that is negative testing, and we do it not with your management team, we do it with the developers. Okay. Then finally, destructive testing is there. This comes when you are doing I would say security testing or penetration testing, or you are doing load testing, where you bombard the servers with thousands of data, 10,000 lakhs of test data you do. There the chances of your database going down is very high. Okay, so I would say this is conducted during performance testing and security testing, where lakhs of data is ingested into the server or into the database. Okay. Where thousands of test data is ingested into the server or database, and this can disrupt your database services or server services, causing users to experience application unavailability issues. Like you get this error, right? 500 internal server error, 503 service unavailable. I'm sure you have seen such kind of error messages on the internet. 500 error. You go to images, you might have experienced these kind of error codes while testing your applications. So during destructive testing, we will simulate these kind of errors. Okay. So this is some quick recap about software testing that you guys have to be aware of. And finally, the conclusion for today is you're all here to learn accessibility testing, right? So where is accessibility testing coming? If I have to answer that, it is coming under BBT, black box. So I will write here, accessibility testing is black box testing. And then you have functional testing and non-functional testing. So it comes under non-functional testing. Then we have manual testing and automation testing. It comes under manual testing as well as automation testing. It can be done in both the ways. And is it positive testing or negative testing or destructive testing? I would say it is positive testing only. Okay. Did I cover everything? Yes. Okay. And which are we verifying, primary objective or secondary objective? I would say we are verifying the secondary objective in accessibility testing. Secondary objective is to find as many bugs as possible. That is what accessibility testing focuses on. Primary objective is validating whether the developed requirements are met or not. That is not taken care in accessibility because functional testers will take care of that. And accessibility testing is non-functional testing. So we take care of that. Okay, so accessibility testing comes under these points. So directly if I tell it is secondary objective, black box, non-functional, manual, positive, automation testing, you may not understand that. Hence I'm telling that, hence we discussed about details like this to conclude the statement. So smoke testing is also known as sanity testing. Abdul Qadir question. Yes, both are same, Abdul. There is no difference. Both are same. People confuse you again in the industry, but ideally speaking, both are same. 99% they are same. 1% we can argue that they are different. But in my view, wherever I am working, everyone says they are same, and it is same also. 99% they are same.
So Kiran, so because why I asked this question, Kiran, many times some people, they are telling that it's a smoke testing, sanity testing. Then because when I check with my leader, he mentioned that whenever a build is released from the development to testing team, rather than doing the thorough testing, they will cover, like you mentioned, only very critical scenario in the new build. So
Correct.
that is known as smoke test.
Correct. Only priority 1 test cases or critical high priority test cases will be executed as part of smoke testing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so guys, the conclusion is accessibility testing. So definition, I'll probably talk about it tomorrow. Accessibility testing is to ensure your application is available for every person in the world, irrespective of abilities or disabilities, irrespective of gender, irrespective of knowledge, irrespective of any other discrimination factors. And typically accessibility testing comes under these categories. Okay, so that's quick introduction that I wanted to give you guys today, so that your idea will be there. And tomorrow we'll talk about what is usability testing, what is accessibility testing, how do you measure it. First few classes will be theory before I talk about the actual accessibility testing. Okay, that's all I have for today's session. Hope you guys enjoyed it and had some good learnings. If you have any questions, you can ask me now, or also on the WhatsApp you can ask me. And those who have not completed your enrollments, if you are happy with the teaching style and with the topics, please complete your enrollments. The classes will continue without any breaks. Okay, fine. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.